What's going on, fellas? Today's video is a little more eerie than usual. I'll be going over different conspiracy theories relating to United States presidents. From the connection between JFK and Abraham Lincoln to the Clinton body count theory, I'll be going over nearly every single major presidential conspiracy theory. Let's start with the less fascinating facts. Both Lincoln and Kennedy each have 7 letters in their name. Their assassins, John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald, are known for their 3 names, and each assassin's full name is composed of 15 letters. Both their sons' names, who both died while their fathers were in the White House, each have 21 letters in their full name. Those facts are more used in conspiracy theories rather than creepy similarities. However, let's get into the real stuff. Both were elected to Congress in 46, Lincoln in 1846 and Kennedy in 1946. Both were elected to the presidency in 60, Lincoln in 1860 and Kennedy in 1960, although Lincoln was starting the beginning of his second term in 1860. Both were concerned with civil rights while in office. Lincoln felt strongly that all slaves should be freed and issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and Kennedy was concerned with racial equality and created the stepping stones to the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Both were married in their 30s to women in their 20s. Both were shot on a Friday in the presence of their wives and in the head. Both were assassinated by Southerners. John Wilkes Booth was from Maryland and Lee Harvey Oswald was from Louisiana. Both were succeeded by Southerners, Andrew Johnson from Tennessee and Lyndon B. Johnson from Texas. Both successors were born in 08, Andrew Johnson in 1808 and Lyndon B. Johnson in 1908. Both Lee Harvey Oswald and John Wilkes Booth were assassinated themselves before they could go on trial. Lincoln was shot at Ford's Theater and Kennedy was shot in a Ford car in a Lincoln limousine. Both died in nearby locations from where they were shot, Lincoln at the Peterson House across the street from Ford's Theater and Kennedy at Parkland Memorial Hospital down the road. Kennedy had a secretary named Evelyn Lincoln whose husband Harold's nickname was Abe. Evelyn warned him not to go to Dallas. Those are all the true things linked between the Lincoln and Kennedy assassinations. Now we can get into the false stuff. There was a rumor for many years that Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy who warned him not to go to Ford's Theater. Although Kennedy did have a secretary named Evelyn Lincoln, there is no record that President Lincoln had a secretary named Kennedy. There was a common assumption that both assassins were born in 1939. However, John Wilkes Booth was born in 1838 and Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1939. Another assumption was that Booth ran from a theater and was caught in a warehouse, and Oswald ran from a warehouse and was caught in a theater. Booth did run from Ford's Theater after he shot Lincoln, however, he was caught in a barn in Virginia. There are also wild conspiracy theories that Lincoln and Kennedy are actually the same person, as there are some similarities between their presidencies and their assassinations. But obviously, this is not true. Going right into the next conspiracy theory, we have the Kennedy Curse. The Kennedy Curse is a piece of folklore that refers to the series of deaths that involve members of the American Kennedy family. A fun fact, after the Chappaquiddick incident, Senator Ted Kennedy was quoted as saying, quote, "Some awful curse must actually hang over all the Kennedys." Here is a brief list of all the notable Kennedy deaths. Joseph Kennedy Jr. died in a piloting accident in August of 1944. Kathleen Kennedy died in 1948. Patrick Kennedy died in 1963. JFK died in 1963. Robert Kennedy, senator from New York, died in 1968. David Kennedy died in 1984. Michael LeMoyne Kennedy died in 1997. John F. Kennedy Jr. died in 1999 while piloting a plane. And Mary Richardson Kennedy died in 2012 by suicide. Every other Kennedy death has been natural, which is why such events as the death of Ted Kennedy are not on this list. So I guess if you enjoy life, don't marry a Kennedy. And now we're gonna dive deep into probably the biggest presidential conspiracy theory of all time, the assassination of JFK, or who really killed JFK. It is widely believed, and most likely true, that Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated John F. Kennedy in 1963, but sometimes it's nice to wonder, what if? So today I'm going to quickly go over 5 conspiracy theories about Kennedy's death that people still believe today. The grassy knoll theory states that there was a second gunman that worked with Oswald. In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald did act alone and that Jack Ruby acted alone in killing Oswald, but most people did not believe that this was the work of a lone gunman. So who's to blame for this conspiracy theory? The House of Representatives. In 1976, the Select Committee on Assassinations, which reinvestigated JFK's assassination as well as Martin Luther King Jr.'s, concluded that there was probably a second shooter on the grassy knoll, a hill overlooking the site where Kennedy was assassinated in his motor vehicle. In 1982, another House committee re-examined ballistic evidence and ballistic accounts that found that, quote, reliable acoustic data does not support a conclusion that there was a second gunman. But people don't trust the government, so there's still people who believe there was a second gunman. The Umbrella Man theory questions common sense. As you can see in this picture taken before Kennedy was assassinated, there is a man carrying an umbrella on a summer day. Why would someone carry a black umbrella on a summer day? The man, Louis Stephen Witt, carried a black umbrella with him to Dealey Plaza on November 22, 1963, and was caught on film with the umbrella while Kennedy's car drove past. Some people believe he was giving a signal, others think he could have shot a poison dart from the umbrella. This theory is a little absurd, because the truth is much less exciting. During a 1978 interview with Witt, he revealed that he simply wanted to heckle the president because he was the, quote, conservative type fellow. The third theory, and the one with the most actual evidence, is that it was a mob hit. The Kennedys are very familiar with organized crime. In fact, some believe, and there is evidence to support, that the Mafia helped JFK steal the election in 1960. The 1960 election was extraordinarily close, and Illinois was even closer. A lot of dead people voted in Chicago. The theory states that since Kennedy was unsuccessful in overthrowing Fidel Castro in Cuba, the mafia-run casinos remained shut down, and his brother, Robert Kennedy, who was the Attorney General, was cracking down on Jimmy Hoffa, who was a very well-known mobster. So the mob planned out a multi-year plot to assassinate John F. Kennedy and his brother. Now, is this theory possible? Yes. Do I think it happened? No. Theory 4, the government did it. The most frightening theory is that the Kennedy assassination was an inside job. The background behind this one was that the CIA was very angry with Kennedy over the Bay of Pigs invasion and its failure. Worried that something like that would happen again, they decided to let him sleep with the fishes. CIA spokesperson Edward Price once told NBC, "While the CIA conspiracy theories make good fodder for movies, they are pure fiction." The final conspiracy theory, and the most scariest one, was that Lyndon Johnson had it done. A 2003 Gallup poll indicated that nearly 20% of Americans suspected Lyndon B. Johnson was involved in the assassination of Kennedy. In 1968, Kennedy's personal secretary, who we mentioned earlier, Evelyn Lincoln, wrote in her book, Kennedy and Johnson, that President Kennedy had told her that Lyndon B. Johnson would be replaced as Vice President of the United States. Johnson was apparently made aware of this, and he plotted to assassinate his president. The biggest piece of evidence? When Johnson was sworn in, this picture was taken, and it appears to be that Johnson is winking. It's safe to say that this one didn't happen. Up next in the conspiracy theory list, we have Barack Obama. There were multiple conspiracy theories behind his presidency. There was a theory that he was not a citizen of the United States, and in fact he was from Kenya. There was another theory that alleged the Obama administration was a puppet government for the wealthy elite, and that he was secretly a Muslim. All of these, at one point or another, were proven false. Up next, we have the Clintons. The Clinton body count refers to the conspiracy theory that Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have assassinated 50 or more of their associates. The people who died were alleged to have information on the Clintons. Names include Mary Mahone, Vincent W. Foster, Seth Rich, and Jeffrey Epstein. Rich, who was a member of the Democratic National Committee, was rumored to be responsible for the WikiLeaks release of the DNC emails. The emails that included prominent DNC staff members trying to undermine the campaign of Bernie Sanders. The theory is that Hillary Clinton arranged for his death, as even today his murder is unsolved. The most famous of these body count theories has to be Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein, who was a convicted sex offender and was being held on federal charges of child sex trafficking, was found dead in his cell at a high-security Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. He was found dead on August 10, 2019, and an autopsy later revealed it was suicide by hanging. Conspiracy theories immediately pointed to President Bill Clinton and President Donald Trump, as they were both associates with him before his death. And the final and most recent conspiracy theory is the stolen election theory. During the 2020 campaign, former President Donald Trump stated that he did not trust the mail-in voting system and believed that it would cause massive fraud. He told his supporters time and time again false statements about mail-in ballots and mail-in voting. The result of this is that not many Republicans voted by mail except for in Arizona, where they had been accustomed to voting by mail. The theory falsely claims that the 2020 election was stolen from President Trump, who had lost the election to Joe Biden.
As I mentioned, we are not prepared to give that number now.
The Biden crime family stealing the election! The media is covering up! The Biden crime family stealing this election! The media is covering up! The Biden crime family stealing this election! The media is covering up! We want our freedom for the world! Give us our freedom, Joe Biden! Joe Biden is covering up this election! He's stealing it!
This theory has so many cracks and holes in it, it's not worth going over, but I will anyways. During the course of the vote counting process, there were reports that hundreds of thousands of Biden votes had appeared out of thin air. These reports were debunked almost immediately. President Trump's supporters chanted "Stop the steal, stop the count, and count the votes" across the nation. In states that he was losing, it was "count the votes." In states that he was winning yet losing votes, it was "stop the count." The Trump campaign fought in court that the election was stolen, but lawsuit after lawsuit and claim after claim were thrown out of the courts. Even the Supreme Court, who, remember, 3 of the justices were appointed by Trump, rejected his case. The climax of this event occurred on January 6, 2021, where Trump supporters stormed the Capitol. This would result in the president being suspended from nearly every piece of social media and would effectively end the Stop the Steal movement. There are plenty of other conspiracy theories out there relating to presidents, but those are the major ones. If you want a second part to this video, comment down below and I will do my research and find more theories. But with that being said, thank you all for taking the time out to watch this. It is always very much appreciated. I'll have links to my Twitter and my Discord in the description below. And as always, I'll see you on the flip side.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Motherfucking boss.